So the GFL, aka the Global Fight League, just got announced, and a lot of people are buying into the hype. They're seeing all these big names get announced, all the benefits that the company's offering, but I don't think they fully understand the concept of this league. So I'll give a simple overview as to what it is and my thoughts to it all towards the end of the video. So what the GFL is doing is that they're embracing the PFL format, which they have a regular season and then a tournament style bracket, which leads to the championship. But it's not going to be fighters fighting individually to advance towards the championship. It's going to be teams of fighters. There's going to be 6 teams, or as they say, cities, which are going to be, the fighters are going to be representing. They can be from anywhere around the world. This is not going to be like America and a Brazilian city and then Russia or some shit like that. No. A Brazilian fighter can represent an American city. An English fighter can represent like France or whatever. So don't get that too confused with it's going to be specific regions of fighters. But no. Fighters are going to be in teams of 20, and they're going to be fighting to earn points to advance towards a championship and win, for their team. There's going to be 2 fighters representing each weight class, and of course, 20 fighters. There's going to be 10 weight classes, 7 for the men's, 3 for the women's. I think for the men's, there's not going to be a flyweight, so that's that. And another interesting feature to add is the GFL is changing the name to the number of the weight classes. So their featherweight is going to be at 155, and their welterweight's going to be their lightweight's going to be at 170, something like that. They're going to have light heavyweight at 225, and for the women's, strawweight's going to not be at 115. It's going to be at 120, and then it carries on. They're going to go up 10 pounds, flyweight 130, stuff like that. So a little bit of confusion for the casual viewer who might be familiar with the UFC's, weight class styles, but might not be familiar with, the GFL's. So the point system, how does it work? Pretty much the same as the PFL. It's a little different. PFL did it round-based. They gave points based on, if you got a first round finish, you got 6 points, second 5, third 4. If you just got a decision, 3 points. The GFL is just going to give you a flat out, 4 points if you get a finish, 3 points for a decision. A draw gives 2 points, which is interesting. And a decision loss, even more interesting, I think. Not really, but, is going to give you 1 point. And, of course, if you get finished, not good to even deserve a half point. So that's that. Now, how do these fighters get selected to go on to each of these teams? Well, so far, the GFL has selected and signed 300 fighters, but only 120 of them get selected. So what happens to the other 180? Well, if you think that they're signed to the promotion, they're not directly signed. So these fighters, basically there's a clause where if they get selected, yes, they do have to compete for the GFL. But if not, if an opportunity arises before the draft, which begins January, they can take another fight with another promotion. They can do whatever they want. But, once they, don't get selected from the draft, they're free to go, I think, for at least this season. But if they get selected, of course, they have to fall into the tournament. And, this, looking at the list of the fighters that they announced as signed, a lot of people are thinking, oh, shit, all these big names, it's going to be the UFC 2.0. Sure, they're older fighters, but, look at this. Big notable names like Tyron Woodley, Fabricio Werdum, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, Kevin Lee, what is it? Where's my favorite one? Robelis de Spain, 5-2 Robelis de Spain. You may think these guys are going to be immediately, guaranteed to fight. But it's not a guarantee. They're just signed under this kind of clause to which if they get selected, then yes, they'll go fight under this promotion. Greg Hardy. I little side note, like, it's interesting to see some of these fighters even on this list, like Frank Mir, Andrei Arlovsky, like Ilir Latifi, Greg Hardy, as I said, like Andre Sukumta, the guy who almost beat O'Malley early on in his career, where O'Malley broke his foot. Vanderlei Silva, like, come on. I don't think these are, like, they're big names, but are they enough to attract and grow a company? I don't know. And they're not even guaranteed. They're not a guarantee to get selected because, well, there's a pool of 300 fighters. This is only 1/6 of their top 50 fighters. All right? What is it? Charles Rosa falls into their top 50. Marlon Moraes. All right? I know this is based on, like, Instagram followers or whatever, but, like, Marlon Moraes is on a 7 or 8 fight knockout losing streak. This is their top fighters. Yes, again, well-known name and everything, but, like, this is the top pool. But it's still going to be seen as, like, a kind of retirement home for UFC fighters, kind of. I'll get into, like, that's my opinion of it, and I'll get into that a bit more towards the end. But, yeah, that's that. And as to the CEO, the Dana White of the company, or not the CEO, sorry, like the founding partner is this guy named Darren Owen. He's the guy who gave the interview on the Helwani show. He has a co-partner in Aaron Parimi. I don't think he's done any interviews or anything, but a crucial point to add is that they're being heavily funded by an investor. All right, they didn't say who. They said he doesn't want to, attract more eyes to his name because he invested into the GFL. And they took a lot of time. They took a lot of time to find this sponsor. This promotion was actually proposed 3 years ago. And it's taken them this long to, finally get some guys under their banner and an investor on board. So, yeah, now, as to what's good and some of the more features of the GFL, they offer 50% revenue share. The UFC only offers 10 to 15. Not much at all. They offer retirement and insurance funds. Things that, don't fall under the UFC's view of their fighters as, independent contractors, which, just require them to do the service and, get out. They have to deal with everything on their own. They also offer some training and whatnot, access to training facilities or gyms and whatnot. There's a bunch of them on their website as to what to offer, but these are their main selling points. The revenue share for the fighters will give you 50%. They think this is fair, and it is fair. So yeah, this is the good. If you want to, if this is a good enough takeaway for you guys, good for you. But I have some, critique points to also consider. So, this format takes the individuality away from fighting. Like, you could, this kind of represent, like, here's a basketball reference for you. It's like LeBron James on the Cavs versus the stacked Warriors. And this is when he didn't have Kyrie or whatnot. I don't think he had Kyrie for the one that he didn't win. He had Kyrie for the 3-1 comeback. But basically, we know, like, LeBron's better than the whole, Golden State Warriors team. But if they have to go one-on-one to determine who's the better team, you might not get the best result. It's going to be most likely 4-1 to Golden State. This is the same thing. You're going to have a team that might potentially have someone really good, but they're not going to advance, and they're going to be limited to showcasing themselves because of how potentially not good their other teammates are. So that's crazy. I don't like that at all whatsoever. limited slash exclusive. I feel like this is a VIP club type of thing. Yes, they have signed 300 fighters, but what is it? Yes, they did sign those 300 fighters and whatnot. What's the point I'm trying to say? They signed the 300 fighters, but like their main selling point is the name value, right? And they might not even get chosen. They might not even get chosen unless they rig the draft to pick these big names, but it's like it feels very limited, and in order for this company to succeed, they're gonna need these big names to perform and attract. This, team-based style is not gonna work with your regional, up-and-coming prospects. Like in the UFC, there's a ranking-based system that leads to a championship. And that's how fighters can prove themselves. You don't really prove too much, as an individual fighter, really, in the Global Fight League. And again, like the success, if you get what I mean, like the success is dependent on the names. It's like a exclusive VIP club for all these UFC champions to go have fun and, get some retirement and whatnot. But yeah, again, to go to my next point now, I'd say, again, the weight class identification, like it's just confusing to the simple, casual viewer, not attractive to the eye. And, even though it's a simple thing that, a hardcore fan can adjust to, a casual who's just going to be tuning in and has a simple overview is not going to try and calibrate themselves too much to it and might get confused. Like, oh, wow, this featherweight is huge. They could topple over any of the UFC's featherweights. Look how big they are, but when in fact like the number is 155. I just find it confusing. So yeah, another feature is that they don't have a TV deal, right? They're not going to be broadcasted anywhere. They don't have any partner to distribute the content to. And the owner on Helwani's show said they're gonna have their own app, which isn't even up yet, which is not the best. You should have the app to give at least an overview to the fans as to what to expect on the app for the promotion. Yes, there's a website, but it's good to have an app as well when you're trying to be this next big thing. No TV deal, no ESPN, no nothing, nowhere. So that's not going to be a good, feature and whatnot. The retirement home for the UFC fighters, heavily dependent on name value. And I should also add that like the name value and whatnot is going to drive the revenue. And even though they're promising, 50% share in the revenue, the revenue is not going to be that big, if the selected names are going to be small. So, like, there's not going to be much chance to grow, yourself as an entity and whatnot and make the most of the opportunity. You're going to be dependent on other people to, drive the product and give you your, big stake of the revenue. So, yeah, those are my takeaways from it. And, of course, like, the tournament style format, rankings are much better. There's a champion. Who's the best. Team-based as well. It just takes away the individuality, the legitimacy out of fighting. Yes, there's going to be brutal knockouts. There might be some good prospects to come out of it, but it's not going to be the best. So, in conclusion, basically, this gives me Eagle MMA vibes. And if you don't remember what that is, that's when Khabib had his Eagle fight promotion that he was trying to go mainstream, that he brought over from Russia to America. And again, tried to make it go mainstream. He brought on board Henry Cejudo, Chael Sonnen Usman, and Kamaru Usman to commentate and whatnot, make it popular. It try to promote the shit out of it on social media. They main evented Kevin Lee versus Diego Sanchez. I'm trying to think, there was another one that I watched. Eagle FC, Tyrone Spong, the boxer, versus another older Eastern European guy. Yeah, this gives me the same vibes. It's gonna be, if the investor doesn't see, profits, I think he's gonna step out and the company's gonna be in drought, and it's not gonna be so good. Again, it's just like the PFL combined with any other, sporting entity that uses the tournament style based brackets, NFL, NBA, Champions League, soccer, whatever you want to do. And it's not, too heavily, reliant on business, just like how Riyadh season is doing. Yes, they'll rake in some profits, of course, but, I don't think this is gonna be a business based venture yet, because they're gonna be new, and this is a concept season. To show the investor that, okay, it's worth your money, it's worth your time to actually fund us. So yeah, they kind of like Riyadh season as well. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the GFL. Let me know if I misinterpreted something, if I missed something. Like or dislike the video, and if you got a comment, leave it, whatever. Of course, much appreciated for your viewership, and peace.